Oh, hi. It's been a while. Sorry about that. I usually do these during free periods at school, but we don't have school this week, so that's why I haven't been doing much recently. Anyway, now, it might not mean much to you, but this is episode 81. 81 is my favorite number, thus meaning I should probably talk about one of my new favorite things to do with Scratch. And my new favorite thing to do with Scratch actually does not involve Scratch at all, but instead it involves mods, expansions, super extensions. I don't know what to call them, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Turbo Warp. I'm talking about Forkfirst. I'm talking about Griffpatch's browser extension thingy for Scratch. If you don't know what any of those things are, then I'll tell you about them. Turbo Warp is probably the most common one. It's a expansion for Scratch that makes projects run better, and it can even run unshared projects. And just keep in mind that none of these are endorsed by the Scratch team. They're just fan-made things. Also, the cool thing about Turbo Warp is that you can pause projects, which is pretty nice. And, the most important thing, they have a whole bunch of extensions that Scratch doesn't. Stuff like onion skinning. Yes, seriously. If Turbo Warp was the base Scratch, then what would I have to complain about? It's perfect. So yeah, Turbo Warp is just Scratch, but a million times better. However, none of these websites that I'm talking about have any of the Scratch followers or loves or favorites feature. You have to instead download the project that you made on Turbo Warp and import it to Scratch, which is pretty simple, but it's just something you should keep in mind. Now, the second one, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I think it's Forkfirst or Phosphorus. I don't know. It's something like that. And basically what it does is you put a link to a Scratch project inside of it, whether shared or unshared, and it basically just runs the project better without lag most of the time. And it has the pause thing. So it's Turbo Warp, but without the editor. But it is in dark mode, so if you hate how bright Scratch is like I do, then you might want to consider playing some projects in Forkfirst. I said Griffpatch's browser extension in the very beginning because I was just listing off stuff, and a list of two isn't really that impressive. I don't know much about Griffpatch's thing. I just said it because it sounded cool. I'm sorry. I know absolutely nothing about Griffpatch's browser extension. If you do, however, please feel free to tell me. I'm very curious. Anyway, the third and final one that I wanted to talk about was lesser known, probably because of the fact that I have no idea how to pronounce this website. I thought that Forkfirst was difficult to pronounce, but this is just, it's not even in English. But anyway, so the way that this works is it's not like Forkfirst where you can just put a link. You have to instead have a project already saved to your computer, so basically you take a project that you save from your computer and put it there. And here's what it does. It makes it bigger. Yes, really. You ever hated how small that the Scratch screen is? You put it in full screen mode, but there's still those bars to the left and right that serve no purpose. Well, this website removes those bars and instead just makes your project full screen. And you can adjust the I just said a resolution. You can adjust the resolution and make the project bigger. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It takes a Scratch project and makes it full screen. And yeah, that's it. The three of my favorite Scratch website extension thingies. There will be a link to each of these websites in the notes and credits, so feel free to try them out for yourselves. This has been Billy Netro's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Have you ever opened up Scratch and thought, I think I'm going to replicate the Scratch cat? No, of course not. That would be ridiculous. Well, I'm quite a fan of ridiculous, and one day I opened up Scratch and decided to replicate the Scratch cat. So I was doing pretty well, and when it came to coloring stuff, I was messing with the outline, and it didn't look correct. The outline didn't look similar to the actual Scratch cat. My outline was thinner than Scratch cat's, and I was thinking, well, how could it be thinner than Scratch cat's if everyone knows that Scratch cat's outline is too thick, and mine was too thick, so how come it looked thinner? What if I told you that Scratch cat's outline is not actually 2 units thick? It's 2.4. Yes, you can use decimals for thickness. I did not know that you could use decimals for outlines. It came as a total surprise, and I was like, whoa. But wait a minute. There's another instance like this where there's a secret graphical feature that only Scratch can use, and that's the font of the question mark in the Doom Square. Now, if you've ever played around with a Doom Square, which you shouldn't, but if you did and you didn't care about the project it was in, or the sprite it was corrupting, then you might notice that the Doom Square's question mark is actually an unobtainable font. And I thought, well, maybe the decimal in the thickness was the same thing, unobtainable. But nope, it's not unobtainable. All you have to do is type a decimal into the thickness number, How did I not know this? I've been on Scratch for like 2 years, and I didn't know that you could add decimals to thickness. I really hope that this isn't a commonly known thing that I just didn't know. I hope that I'm actually teaching someone something. Because if I'm the only person who didn't know about this, that'd be really embarrassing. So, anyway, that's all I wanted to say, but uh-oh. It's only been 10 recordings. Oh, this is not good. Usually these are 20 recordings long, meaning that I still have to talk about stuff for like double the duration I already was talking about stuff. So, what can we talk about? Oh, I know. Seeing as we have some extra time, we might as well talk about follow-up to the last episode. So last episode I was talking about a website that increased the canvas size of Scratch, right? Yeah. And I said that you should make projects on it, but I take that back. You shouldn't. You should only play projects on it. Do I know why? That website is Doom Square Central. If you make a project on there and then import it to Scratch, literally every sprite will be a Doom Square. Nothing like wasting time redrawing stuff you already drew because of the fact that you used an external website, which I wouldn't have to do if Scratch just added a customizable canvas size. I mean, isn't that sort of like a very important thing that should be in the website already? When you go in full screen and the two white bars to the side, how come they can't just remove those and let us see further into the project? And boom, that was the 20 recording mark. This has been Billy Nutcher's Rant, and wait, hold up, don't leave yet. Another thing I forgot to say last episode about that higher canvas size website is that if you're going to play someone else's project on there, then you're going to have to download it. So be sure to ask whoever is the owner of that project before you download it to make sure it's okay. And with that being said, this has been Billy Nutcher's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed.
Hey, aren't you forgetting something?
No, I didn't forget about you. I've just been actively avoiding you.
No, you fool. Not me. You forgot about something else.
I didn't forget anything. I don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, hello, welcome to Billy Nutcher's Rant, and today...
Earth Day, dummy. You forgot about Earth Day.
Earth Day. Really? You think I forgot about Earth Day? Well, I didn't forget about Earth Day, because I didn't have anything to say on Earth Day. What else is there to say, besides recycle stuff, save the animals, don't litter, basic stuff like that everyone should know already. I'm not going to announce it on Scratch. Plus, I assumed that the Scratch team would feature an Earth Day project that could explain Earth Day way better than I could, so why repeat what that person already said? Not only that, but there was a featured studio called Earth Day 2021, which, of course they would be. It's a major, well, not really major, but moderate-sized holiday. Or maybe it is a major holiday, because it's Earth Day, about stuff on Earth, and everyone is on Earth. So if you don't celebrate Earth Day, then you'd be like an alien or something.
That's a bit rude of a thing to say in front of me. Just because you Earthlings thought of coming up with a holiday for your planet first doesn't mean that it's the best.
Oh, really? You're an alien? I didn't know that. Well, I guess that would explain why you can fly and stuff. So, what planet are you from?
I'm not from a planet. I'm from a star. The sun, to be more specific.
What? That's ridiculous. You can't be from the sun. It's impossible for any living thing to survive on the sun. Okay. Ow. That seemed a bit unnecessary. But before this gets any worse, this has been Billy Nutcher's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Hello, welcome to Billy Nutcher's Rant, the only show on Scratch where every other episode is me correcting myself. And hey, isn't it your job to make sure that I don't mess things up? Anyway, yesterday's episode was a skit about people from the sun being jealous that Earth has its own holiday. And this one comment from Imbecile Moose just made me go, oh, wow, can't believe I didn't think of that. So here it is. The comment was 2 words. Duh, Sunday. On a positive note, there's now an extra layer of ridiculousness to the whole thing. And on a negative, how did I not think of that? Sunday comes every week. Earth Day comes once a year. So obviously, Sun has more holidays than Earth. Or days, at least. You know what? I'm going to call him over right now. And you might want to move so you don't get crushed. Hey, Supernova, I have something I need to tell you.
Ah yes, I see you've called me over to point out one of your many mistakes.
No, actually, I called you over so I could point out one of your stupid mistakes. Ever heard of Sunday? You know, first day of the week, every week? Yeah, Sunday is named after the sun, thus meaning that the sun has way more days named after it than the Earth. And so, you had no reason to do what you did last time.
You mean set you on fire? No. I didn't set you on fire because of the Earth-Sun thing at all. I just did it because I felt like it.
You felt like it. That's horrible. You can't just set people on fire because you feel like it. I've had enough of this. Bring back Jelly.
No. You see, I do what I feel, and I don't feel like bringing back Jelly. Maybe instead I'll just stand here in her spot so she can't come back.
Well, if you're just going to keep antagonizing me and not listen, then I'm just going to end the episode. because there's no point even trying to do a rant while you're around because I can never get anything done.
Haha, that's funny. You can't just end the episode whenever you feel like.
Something I find funny about Scratch, for no reason, is that most of the animations on Scratch begin with a disclaimer, of all things, that says, "Please nobody be offended by my project," followed up by the least offensive thing known to mankind. I mean, I get it's sweet that you want to make sure that nobody gets offended, but when what you're doing is not offensive, then putting a warning about it being offensive is worse than just not putting a warning at all. Because there's that one person who does get offended by stuff and they just stop watching your project because they don't want to get offended by the offensive thing that doesn't exist.
Yo yo yo, what's up?
How long has it been since I've had an episode where I'm not interrupted by anyone? Am I no longer allowed to speak my opinions on Scratch and things surrounding Scratch?
Lol, nope. Who would want to hear your opinions on stuff?
The people who watch this show.
That's a good one, ha. No one watches this.
Plenty of people do, and I'm pretty sure they watch it for me, not you. So, if you would kindly just roll along and...
Whoa whoa, when has this been about you?
My name is literally in the title, thus meaning that it's my show, and as long as my name stays in that title, then I get to choose who gets to be with me on the show, and I choose that you should not. Do you see me laughing right now? That's not how it works.
You said your name was in the title. Now my name is. Now this is my show.
Okay, fine then. What are you going to talk about? If you're so good at running a show on Scratch, then why don't you talk about something?
Okay, let me think. How about? Dang, I got nothing. I am a robot. I can't complain about stuff. That's for the living creatures to do.
Yes, living creatures like me. So, can I talk about what I was going to talk about?
Yeah, no. I will now go on a 50-minute rant about how robots are still better than humans.
Alright, nobody wants to hear this. This has been Billy Nutch's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed.
Hey wait, I was not done yet.
Currently, one of the worst places to be on Scratch is the comments. Small Scratchers who share projects usually just get comments from friends and family telling them that the project is good. But then we go to the Explore tab, where the comment sections range from supportive and kind to spammy and rude. And the reason is fairly obvious. The way the Scratch comment section currently works is you post a comment and it goes to the top. Another person posts a comment and it goes on top of that comment. And they just keep stacking up. No, I know what you're going to say. That doesn't sound that bad and it sounds useful. So that way you can find the most recent comments, which obviously means that they're the most relevant, right? No, wrong. The most recent comments are never the best. The best comments are the ones that people have decided are the best. Think about it this way. Have you ever gone to a news YouTube channel? Like an official news site that happens to have a YouTube channel, and then sorted the comments by most recent? Yeah, they're all going to be horrible. The reason being YouTube has a system where you can like comments, and the more a comment is liked, the higher up on the comments section it'll go. So, the most recent comments, specifically the negative ones, aren't going to get any likes because no one wants to support someone who's being a jerk. So they're going to be at the bottom. But Scratch doesn't have that system, so the worst comments are going to be at the top. But the problem is YouTube has a dislike comment button too, and we can't have dislikes on Scratch. That's very unconstitutional. So I say that if they did add this, they should just have a like system, and not a dislike system. Because let's be honest, what does disliking YouTube comments even do? You can't move the like counter into the negatives, so what's the point? So I say that if Scratch ever gets another update, then they should have liking comments, but not disliking comments, so that way the comment sections will be more kind, or at least give the illusion of being more kind, because the nice comments will be on top. And maybe a sorting system, such as sort by most liked, or sort by recent. And there definitely shouldn't be sort by oldest, and here's why. There should absolutely not be a sort by oldest, because the first thing people are going to do is go to a popular project, like one of Griff Patch's projects, and then sort by oldest, and then the first person who comments, they're going to be like, oh wow, this is the first person to ever comment on Paper Minecraft or something. And then they're going to follow that person, and most likely, the person who first commented on Paper Minecraft does not use Scratch anymore. So now there's just going to be a dead account with hundreds of followers for no reason. You should never really follow a dead account, because what's the point? But if an account you're following does die, or become inactive, then you shouldn't unfollow them, because that's just rude. Having a positive comment rating system would really help with Scratch because it would avoid a lot of drama with people just arguing over the fact that someone's comment was rude. Now, a rebuttal to that could be that having a liking system for comments makes Scratch more of a social media. And I know it's a bit of a controversial topic to talk about Scratch as a social media because there's all those people saying that Scratch isn't a social media. But let's be honest, Scratch is just a coding website that's also partially a really mediocre social media. This has been Billy Netcher's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Hey, have you ever heard of Tinker? No? Well, of course you haven't. Tinker is basically just Scratch, but bad. Tynker is the name of a website that my school has been using instead of Scratch to teach coding. Yes, seriously, the school thinks that this is better than Scratch. So let's see, why is it better than Scratch? Well, spoiler alert, it's not. It's basically just Scratch, but without half the things that make Scratch fun. Here are some reasons why Scratch is better than Tinker. Firstly, you know how in Scratch, when you want to duplicate or add a comment to a block, you just right-click the block? Well, too bad for you if you're using Tinker, because they literally just removed right-clicking entirely from Tinker. If you right-click, it'll just bring up the standard right-click menu for most computers. And what's the point of that? Why would you not have right-click? Isn't that kind of a useful thing? Secondly, the blocks on Scratch are a lot more nice to look at than the blocks on Tinker. I know that when Scratch 3.0 first released, people were like, ugh, the new Scratch blocks are so ugly. Well, those people, I'm sure, will be relieved that our Scratch blocks look nothing like Tinker's. Also, what my school is using is this feature on Tinker where there's a bunch of tutorials and you can do the tutorials and they're really easy. But the worst thing about the tutorials is when it does get hard, it doesn't tell you what you have to do. It just gives you a handful of coding blocks and says, here, try to figure out how to put these together in the correct way. And it doesn't even give you any context. So the only way to actually finish the lesson is to just put stuff together and hope that it works. Oh, also, you know how over the past 80-something episodes I've been complaining about Scratch things that I don't like? Well, yeah, the way Tinker teaches Scratch is basically everything that I've talked about that I don't like. Using the say block, movement hat blocks, all that kind of stuff. That's what it teaches you. It doesn't say to use the forever block. It almost never uses the forever block, even though that's one of the most important blocks to learn. And worst of all, while Scratch is free, as far as I know, Tinker costs money. Yes, seriously, my school had to pay for this inferior website because they didn't want to use Scratch. Now, who's to blame here? And I know that I usually try to defend the thing that I'm complaining against, but I really can't think of any reasons to use Tinker over Scratch. Actually, no, I can think of a reason to use Tinker. If you like the coding part of Scratch, but dislike the Scratch community, then sure, use Tinker, whatever. I don't think there even is a community for Tinker. And I know I might sound biased, but who actually has used Tinker, and who would be on Tinker's side? It's obvious that Scratch is the superior platform. Also, where are we? What happened to doing this in the park? Why are we in a dark box? I'm not a big fan of dark box. I don't even entirely remember how we got into this dark box, because I was just thinking about my reasons for not liking Tinker. Anyway, this has been Billy Netcher's Rant in a dark box, and I hope you enjoy. Sound is a very important thing to have in a Scratch project. Although you don't need it, it's always nice when there's something to hear when you're doing stuff. And lucky for you and me, Scratch's sound editor is really simple. But do you want to know what's not simple? The vector editor. And I know what you're thinking. Well, how can the vector editor be complicated if you use it all the time? Well, yeah, I use vector pretty much exclusively now, but when I first started Scratch, I tried vector and I didn't understand it. And I think that the person to blame is my technology teacher for like 2 years ago. So my school was doing a Scratch lesson on how to code stuff, obviously, and we were making a maze game. Yes, I am very much glad that my technology teacher introduced me to Scratch, but the fact that he said, don't use vector, use bitmap, it's easier, set me back. It took me like 4 months to learn how to use vector, just because he didn't teach it. So without further ado, here are some reasons why vector is easier than bitmap. Number 1, it's smooth. It's not pixelated like bitmap is. Number 2, there's the reshape tool, so you don't have to entirely redraw a shape if you got it wrong. Number 3, the icons for the editor, like the paint bucket and the brush and the circle and square, look way better on vector mode than they do on bitmap. I don't know why on bitmap they had to be replaced with just terrible pixel art. It's almost impossible to tell what they even are. They're so simplified. And the most obvious reason to use vector over bitmap is that it's easier to animate stuff. On bitmap, you have to entirely redraw something. or use the exclusive to bitmap select tool, which is probably the worst tool on Scratch. No, definitely the worst tool on Scratch. But it's super easy to animate stuff on vector because you just move the parts. But on bitmap, you have to redraw the entire thing, and it's just kind of a waste of time. Sure, vector's better for animators and game makers like myself, but where bitmap really shines is in the art department. If you import an image from your computer to Scratch, it'll automatically be in bitmap, which means that you can easily show off art that you made on other platforms onto Scratch. And of course, there's still vector art made on Scratch, but using other drawing apps and importing them to Scratch usually yields better results, if not a lower resolution. But that doesn't matter. Art is art. So what did we learn today? Well, we learned that vector is good for games and animations, and bitmap is good for art. And no matter what side of the spectrum you fall on, bitmap or vector, we can all agree that the select tool in bitmap is terrible. Who designed this thing? It makes sense that you'd have a square selector thingy on vector since you can move stuff around, but on bitmap it's just one image, so if you move part of the image, you're just going to have a box-shaped hole. Why not be able to draw a cutting line and then remove part of the image? That would make it look a lot better, but no, it's just a square, and now you have a square-shaped hole in your picture, and it's super hard to fill it in because you'd have to zoom all the way in and line up the previous image to the cut one so that there's no longer a box-shaped hole. It's just a really dumb design decision. Anyway, this has been Billy Nectar's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Today is May 4th, which is Star Wars Day, because, May the 4th be with you. Whoever came up with that idea is a genius. So obviously that means that today's topic is going to be, well, I guess Star Wars. Now, if you've never seen a Star Wars movie and you don't know where it takes place, well, some of it takes place in space. But what if you don't know what space looks like? All you have to do is follow this very simple example. Yeah, space is dark. Anyway, now that you know what space looks like, it's time to start talking about Star Wars. There's kind of a lot to talk about. I don't know where to start. I can talk about the spaceships, the planets, the characters, the movies. There's too much. But instead, I'm going to talk about probably the least interesting thing, just to make people angry. So you know how at the beginning of most of the movies it starts with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It makes sense that they're in a galaxy far, far away since we don't see any of the planets from our solar system ever. But how's it a long time ago? I mean, they have all this futuristic technology like laser swords, laser guns, blue milk. If the Star Wars solar system is already that technologically advanced, then I wonder what they have today and how none of the movies take place at the current year in a galaxy far, far away. I mean, if a long time ago they were already constructing planet-destroying superweapons, then I wonder what they're making right now. I wonder how many species have gone extinct since a long time ago. If the Ewoks had their own planet a long time ago, then do they still have it now? Did it get exploded? In the time span between a long time ago and now, did the Empire just make enough Death Stars to just blow up everything, and now that's why none of the movies take place in present day, because all the planets are just dead? I have a lot of questions like this, and fortunately nobody cares. It doesn't matter when Star Wars takes place, it just matters what happens. And as far as I can remember, the prequels explain why Darth Vader is such a jerk. The main three movies explain what Darth Vader did to be a jerk, and then the newer movies explain what Darth Vader's relatives did to be jerks. Darth Vader was a pretty successful jerk in the time he was alive, which was like one movie. What a nice legacy he left behind. We should all strive to be more like Darth Vader. But instead of blowing up planets, do something nice. This has been Billy Dutch's Rant on Star Wars, and I hope you enjoyed. Today we're going to be talking about the Explore tab, yet again. More specifically, a subcategory called Popular, which sorts Scratch projects by the most popular. The first screen of the Popular page, without requiring you to scroll down, already shows what you'd expect. Griff Patch, platformers, Among Us, that kind of stuff. Reasonably focused and organized, because Scratch is a very centered website, while only a few people get attention. But, of course, I'm not going to be talking about that, because that's boring. Anyway, sorting by popular on the studios section is an entirely different story. Most of the studios on there are studios that have been featured before, like studios that focus on a specific aspect of Scratch, like Pastel Powered, The Secret Life of Scratch Cat, created with pen, remix-friendly projects. Those kind of things. We've all seen them on the front page before. And fortunately, the number one most popular studio was probably the number one most popular featured studio, which is the Black History Month one. And of course, everyone knows about that one, because I'm pretty sure they had it up for the entire month. Or, at least they should have. And studios like that are definitely necessary and educational on subjects that people may not be aware of. Or, in the case of the other Explore studios, slash featured studios, they focus on a specific question or challenge, like what does Scratch Cat do in his spare time? Or can you make a game using pen? And the answer is no, I cannot make a game using pen. So yeah, while the number one most popular studio on Scratch is Black History Month, the number two most popular studio on Scratch is Grubhub. Yes, seriously, the dead meme from like 5 months ago is somehow still the second most popular studio on Scratch. And it's not even about Grubhub, it's just a generic add everything studio. Which brings us to the actual main idea of this rant, and that being that featured studios should be archived somewhere. Because just relying on the popular studios tab sometimes doesn't work because of the amount of add everything slash troll studios, which are just full of nothing really, and just take up space. Or, even more importantly, are the categories on the Explore tab for studio searching. Currently it's just the same as the projects, trending, popular, recent, which works fine for projects, but for studios we need something different. One of the most important things about any given studio is whether or not people can freely add projects without permission, or being a curator. Wouldn't it make sense for there to be two more categories called Open and Trusted for those that you can add projects to, and those that you need to be a curator for? Combine that with the fact that the Scratch search engine is just bad, makes it almost impossible to find what you want, whether that's a studio, a project, or even a user. You can't use the search bar for users, which is a thing that definitely needs to be fixed. I mean, what if there's a third category on Explore for users, where you could sort by recent, so you could be a bunch of people's friends? How good would you feel if, within 30 minutes of you joining Scratch, you already had a follower? That would be amazing. But then again, who needs self-esteem when you have Grubhub? 10 out of 10, totally necessary studio. This has been Billy Nutch's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed.